If you're bogged down by anxiety, by overthinking, or just thinking badly about yourself in general, and you want to finally live without worry, you want to feel happy and at ease, and you want to have control over your mind, then stay tuned because in this training, I'm going to show you a proven 6-step system to turn all those bad feelings that you're having into good feelings. Anywhere, anytime, so you can actually have the results that you're looking for without needing to spend years in talk therapy, take medication, or read another countless self-help book. And my name is Jordan. I'm a certified health coach. I specialize in mental wellness, and I'm in the last stages of completing my master's degree in psychology. And in just a minute, I'm going to show you this complete step-by-step system that I call emotion hacking that's changed my life, the lives of dozens of my clients that I've taught this to. And now, after years of refinement, I'm making it public so you can benefit from it too. And emotion hacking is something that I discovered in really like the deepest pains that I've had after a really painful breakup. And it changed my life from one of worry and insecurity and not feeling good enough, being stuck in my own head with overthinking and all that good stuff, right? And moving to a place of a genuine happiness and confidence inside myself. And like I mentioned, I have spent years building this, refining this to make it valuable for you. And now you get it for free. Now, just before we dive in, there is so much nonsense on the internet, and I get that, and I don't want you to just blindly believe anything that I say. I hope that you will come at this with an open mind, some healthy skepticism, and then take it and see for yourself if this is true. All right, with that said, let's dive in. What's up? We are back, and so we are with the handy dandy whiteboard here. I'm going to show you the system of emotion hacking so that you can turn the negative situations that you're currently finding yourself in, the negative feelings that you're currently stuck in, and turn them into positive to create that internal healing, create that confidence, that happiness from the inside out. Now, this system, emotion hacking, is kind of like Buckley's cough syrup. You know, they say it tastes awful, but it works. And this is kind of the same. It's uncomfortable and it works. Okay? I like to get that out of the way. It's not a silver bullet that's just going to make everything better without any work. It takes effort. And so if you are just looking for something that does not require any effort, then this is not the thing for you. So with that said, the people who are still left, you're willing to put in the work and actually find something that works. Here we go. What we need to realize is that the system of going from negative here, let's call this pain, you know, this can be anxiety, it could be anger, it could be hurt, it could be betrayal, it could be whatever, it's pain. From going from there to positive is not just a straight line. It does not quite work that way. It is not just a straight line up to our goal. It does not work that way. Of course, you know, we all know this. And so the question is, well, what does it actually look like? What is the actual roadmap to go from A to B? This is something I've spent a long time studying. And so what it actually looks like is much more like this. Okay, where up here we have a steady state of happiness, a steady state of confidence, and generally any other state that you are looking to create. But I find happiness and confidence are the things that I most wanted when I was going through it. And a lot of the people that are reaching out, that's what they're looking for as well. So that is going to be our reference point. Just know that if you are looking for something that's a little bit different, then you can set that as your goal there. And, you know, you might be thinking up to this point, well, I've tried everything. I've tried therapy. I've tried medications. Nothing's working for me. This is impossible. It's not going to work. And hold your horses. I'm going to show you exactly how this happens. Okay. Now, one of the things that you need to understand is what most people do and the reason it doesn't work. So we can look at that and say, well, what are we going to do instead? What most people do is they're in some sort of pain. Let's say, for the context of this, they just went through a breakup. They just found out their spouse was cheating on them. Well, as they go through, they start to numb their emotions by turning to various things. They numb their emotions through drinking or drugs, or they turn to sex or gambling or games or whatever it is. We go into escape mode from our problems. And so we start to feel a little bit better. And we get to this top of this hill, okay? Now, the problem here is when we haven't dealt with our emotions, we're bogged down by them. And then we're feeling heavy. And so we actually fall into this pit. Now, this is the pit of meaninglessness. It's the pit of victimhood. It's why me? Why is this happening to me? Why do I have to go through this? It's also the pit of resentment. I hate the other person. I'm resentful for them, or I'm resentful to life itself. the challenge here is it's a very sticky pit. It's very easy to fall into. We all do. I've spent much time in this pit myself. And particularly detrimental is in this pit, we meet other people who are stuck in the pit, and then we feed off of their energies. Often we get in relationships with them. Now, especially if you're in a relationship with somebody and you both met in this pit, there's a fun little slip and slide that takes you back down to pain inevitably because we are not dealing with our emotions, and we end up back in pain. Okay? We are going to stop doing that and find a much better, healthier system. So, what we're going to do instead is step number 1 is realizing that you don't just go straight from negative to positive, that it is a little bit more complicated than that. But really what you actually have to do is go from negative to a state of neutral. From neutral, you can start to create positive. Okay. Now, again, what most people do is they never even give themselves the chance to get to neutral because they just immediately run from the negativity. And so I used to feel this way as well. I ran from all my emotions. For me, it was really video games, drinking as well, where I would feel ashamed and guilty of having them, feel bad for having them. But what I didn't realize was that discomfort, these uncomfortable emotions, discomfort is the gateway to growth. And when we avoid these uncomfortable emotions, we avoid the gateway to growth. The other thing I didn't realize is that emotions are just messages. They're like a message on a voicemail, and they're here with the intention to help you. And so we need to listen to them. Otherwise, the notifications just won't go away. They get louder. The final lesson that I think people really need to understand here is that the thing that you most need is where you least want to look. The antidote to the poison comes from the poison itself. The light is found in the darkness. These are all just truisms, right? But ultimately, the way out is through. And so the 3 phases to emotion hacking, the first phase is dissolving. We must dissolve our negative emotions. And this is the act of going from negative to neutral. Now, the way that we actually do this, so that we can get to this state without being bogged down, though, and falling into the pit, there's 3 key steps here. Okay? The first step is non-judgmental awareness. The reason is that if you look at what most people do, we numb ourselves from the problems and we stop ourselves from being aware of them. You cannot solve a problem that you're not aware of. And if you judge the thing that you're aware of, you don't see it clearly. So for example, if you feel a feeling and then you judge it as bad or ugly or this thing that you need to avoid, you're not going to see it clearly. And then you can't deal with it properly. Okay? So non-judgmental awareness. Step number 2 here is non-resistance. You might think, well, first of all, what is non-resistance and why do we do that? Well, non-resistance is exactly as it sounds. It is not resisting whatever it is that is showing up in your psychological experience. For example, if you are feeling anger and you start to bottle up your anger and you resist it, you say, I can't feel that. That's not good. I'm not allowed to share that. I must suppress it. I must resist it. What starts to happen? You explode. Another example, you bottle up your sadness, you bottle up your grief until one day, one tiny little thing happens and it overflows the cup and you explode. You can continue doing this for literally any emotion. We could spend the next half an hour just going through this. Anytime that you resist an emotion as a human being, you grow the emotion stronger. Okay, particularly negative emotions. Now, again, you look back to what most people do with avoiding it and numbing it, they're actively fighting it. And so they make them stronger. Instead, we want to dissolve it so that we can reach a neutral state rather than being dragged down to the depths of hell. So what we do is we non-judgmental awareness of the emotion. I notice the sensation of sadness. I notice the sensation of anger arising. And then I'm not going to resist it. I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to run from it. I'm going to let it be. The third step here to dissolve is investigate. Because you don't want to just let it be and then not do anything about it. We want to actually dissolve it. And what happens once we get to a place where we can actually accept it and we're not fighting everything, we can actually hold it in our hands and say, well, what am I going to do with this? So we start to investigate and say, well, where does this come from? that question of where does this come from is very, very important. Now, a lot of people misunderstand Buddhism, but the Buddhists have done a wonderful job studying this, and what they discovered is that suffering basically always comes from desire. Okay, and I'm kind of simplifying for the Buddhists out there who are watching this, but effectively it comes from desire. And so when you start to investigate, well, where is this feeling of anger, hurt, betrayal, etc. coming from? It comes from a place of wanting or not wanting. And so I encourage you, think about whatever it is that you're feeling right now. Don't resist it. And then ask, where is this coming from? What is actually at the root of this? You'll find often it's wanting and not wanting. Now, I digress. We can speak a lot about that, but ultimately, when you do these 3 steps in this order, what happens is you generate understanding of the experience. When you generate understanding of the experience and understanding of the emotion dissolves. If you imagine that emotions are like voicemails, when you hear the voicemail, it disappears. If you don't hear the voicemail, in this case, it starts shouting at you louder. Okay? So what we need to do is understand it. And it feels very similar. If you've ever gotten a massage, you know, there's like a tight point. It feels uncomfortable. They're rubbing it. They even like sit there and they really push on it. And then all of a sudden it releases. It's the same feeling here. As a pro tip, if you're doing this and you think you understand the problem, the emotion's still there, you don't understand it well enough and you need to keep investigating. Okay, so step number 1 is dissolving here. Now, a lot of people, when I tell them this, they're a little bit skeptical, as you should be. I'm just some guy on the internet. You don't know me, right? But I've had everybody who's gone through this, who's actually done this, sees that it works, and it's just a function of the human mind. To give you an example, I had this lady come to me, and she came to me with really severe panic attacks. So she had anxiety. They escalated to panic attacks. If you don't know, panic attacks are like debilitating mental states. They're very, very overwhelming, very unpleasant. You feel like you're dying, like you're having a heart attack. These panic attacks would cause her to throw up. Her throwing up would cause her to be anxious, panic attack, throw up, and around she would go. She tried everything for 5 years. She was dealing with this. She was hospitalized 3 times. Her hair was falling out. She couldn't eat. She couldn't leave the house. Like, she was in a pretty rough state when she came to me. And naturally, she was desperate. She's like, Jordan, I'll just tell me what to do. I'll give it a try. So she went from multiple panic attacks a day when we were started to 2 weeks in, she was down to 1 panic attack a week. 1 panic attack a week. When medication, therapy, doctors, everything else had failed, within 2 weeks, she was able to see such results just through dissolving. Within 3 months of us working together and her really practicing, because it is a skill, her really practicing this, panic attacks weren't a part of her life anymore. She was able to leave the house, go back to work full time, go back to school full time, got into a healthy relationship, and it really got her life back. Instead of trying to jump straight from negative to positive, we went from negative to neutral through dissolving the negative emotions, which then allows us to be in a much more stable place where we can start to create positivity. Now, once we have done that, like we're here, right? Like, you're not feeling as bad anymore, but you're not really feeling good either. And so a lot of people, again, if they're not careful, they fall into the pit. We're going to avoid the pit. And what we need to start to do instead is build a bridge over the pit so that you can actually get to this state up here where there's more positivity. And let's just say that's up like that. Okay. Again, the problem here, just before I forget, the problem with this pit is if you allow yourself to fall into it, or if you are currently in it, what very generally happens is you get in relationships, you do the same cycles over and over, but each time you go around this loop-de-loop, it's like the loop-de-loop from hell, you end up more heartbroken with more bad habits, and then you feel even worse about yourself. So don't do that, okay? We're going to do something different here. We're going to emotion hack. And this next phase is where the hacking and emotion hacking really comes in. What I need you to understand for phase number 2 is that every human being, including you, is exceptional at creating emotions. Yes, you can create your emotions. A lot of people initially fight me on this, and I just want to give you a very quick example to prove it to you. And again, don't believe anything I say. See if this is true for yourself. Have you ever thought about something and made yourself stressed? Of course. Have you ever thought about something and made yourself nervous? Of course. You ever thought about something, made yourself sad? Of course. You ever thought about something, made yourself excited or happy, etc., etc.? Of course, because we all do it all day, every day. We are just so good at it that we don't even realize it's a skill that we have. Now, the problem with the human psyche is that it has what's called a negative bias. So we default towards the negative things. So we default towards negative emotions. And so we default towards stress and low self-esteem and not feeling good enough and all of those things. And what we need to do is learn to hack that same system for creating emotions and use it to turn into something positive. But we must do it on the back of dissolving and being in a neutral state, because if we're not, we get a whole bunch of problems. So you dissolve first, and then you hack into the negative emotions and you create positive emotions, which is where step number 2 or phase number 2 of emotion hacking comes in, where we create. Now, creation of positive emotions is a little bit interesting. All that you need for this is an imagination and 3 key ingredients. Now, if you're watching this and you're alive, I imagine that you have an imagination. And so you take your pot here. This is like our pot on the stove. You can tell I went to art school. And what we need are the 3 key ingredients in our imagination of truth, faith, and gratitude. Truth, faith, and gratitude. Now, to tie this together, when you start really understanding, what actually comes out of this is you start seeing things truthfully rather than the stories that we've been conditioned to believe and to think and the things that just may not be true. You start to really see the truth. The truth you use here. When we're looking at faith, I do not mean that you necessarily need to be religious. You don't need to follow any particular dogma or anything like that. Rather, you must have faith that in something bigger than yourself. Faith that something good is going to happen. Again, you don't need to believe in some deity. You don't need to believe in God, but you do need to have faith in something bigger than yourself. If you are struggling with what that is that was something that I used to really struggle with, consider having faith in the universe as a whole. It's been going for billions of years. It's been doing pretty well. It's doing pretty well right now as well. Okay, just as a quick asterisk for you in case that's helpful. Now, the third ingredient that you need here is gratitude. Gratitude is a superpower of the human mind. I really encourage you. It's not just make a journal and write down the things you're grateful for and be grateful for your house and your car and those superficial things. Make it deeper. If you can start to find gratitude in the present moment for the moment itself, chef's kiss. Okay. Now, just to give you an example of this, I had this lady come to me fairly recently, actually 6 weeks ago, as of a couple days ago at the time of this recording. And she came to me and she was telling me that she had spent her whole life in a perpetual state of destroying her relationships, feeling meaningless, feeling sad, feeling empty. And she really wanted to like herself. She really wanted to feel good. She wanted to just be happy. And she said, I've tried everything, which is a recurring theme. I tried everything. I've been to therapy. Nothing seems to work for me. Please help me. I said, sure, let's give it a go. And so I taught her these steps and we started to work together and we started to fine tune the process for her. And about a month in, so this was about 2 weeks ago, again, at the time of this recording, she texted me telling me that she has been waking up every single day happy for the first time in over 30 years. It's not magic. I'm not doing anything that is like out of this world or is crazy. It's just we're using the faculties of the mind. We're using the tools that we already have in a productive way rather than a destructive way. Okay, that's all. Now, this place right here, like let's say I kind of messed up the scale, but generally speaking, you're feeling happier. You're up here. You're creating positive emotions. You have healed from the pain. You have made it all the way up this mountain. This is great. And I was stuck here for a long time, and I could not figure out if we could even possibly scale this wall. But the challenge with this phase of the healing cycle of recovering from our pains is that it's unstable. As in, some days you'll be feeling good, some days you won't be feeling good. Life will come along, inevitably. It's going to kick you in the shins. You're going to feel like crap. And either you're going to fall back into this pit or you're going to fall back down the hill. Now, I don't want that for you. And you don't want that for you, surely. And so the question becomes, well, the problem there is that it's unstable. So how do we get to a place that is stable? How do we get to a place where you genuinely feel confident, where you genuinely feel happiness through life's ups and downs consistently? The third phase of emotion hacking was created to do just that. And that's what we're going to go into next. Okay, so after you've dissolved and you got to a neutral state, and then you got into a more positive state by creating positive emotions, by hacking into the negative cycles and creating positivity using your imagination with the 3 key ingredients of truth, faith, and gratitude. What happens is you start to have the opportunity to become somebody different. And phase 3 here is all about becoming. So becoming is what took me from a place of ups and downs to having that real confidence, that true happiness, regardless of what was going on. And again, I don't want you to blindly believe me here. I want you to see if this is true for yourself, okay? When things are good, we feel good. When things are bad, we feel bad. And so, particularly when it comes to confidence, when things are good and people are acknowledging us and praising us and complimenting us, we feel good about ourselves. But when they're not, we feel like we are not good enough. Now, especially after a breakup, as many of you watching this are in right now, we tend to not feel good enough, and our sense of self-worth usually is feeling pretty fragile. And I want you to think for a moment, like, what if you could learn to genuinely like yourself, regardless of what anyone else thought? Like, how would that change your life? And this is really where this step comes in. And so the human psyche revolves around your identity. Okay? You think and feel and act in alignment with who you believe that you are and how you believe that the world is. So for example, like, why is it that a burly biker man thinks and feels and acts differently than like a ballerina or a corporate banker or whoever else? It's because of who they believe that they are. And so usually your sense of like good enough comes from your identity. And more specifically, it's your identity in relation to what other people tell you that you should be. So whether that's your mom's saying what it means to be a good husband, or your dad says what your dad says about having a good career, or what society says about what it means to be a good wife, or what your ex said about it meant to be man enough, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. As long as you are trying to fit into other people's perspectives of what good enough is, you are always chasing the carrot on the stick, and you will only get to feel confident in yourself when other people give it to you. And instead, we need to take control. You need to be the one who gives yourself the carrot by aligning yourself with character traits that you value and taking aligned action. So to draw this here, you need to be the one to figure out what are the character traits that I value, and then align yourself with those character traits. Because when you start acting in alignment with things that you value, all of a sudden you value yourself. And when you value yourself, the unavoidable byproduct is that you feel confident. So in my own life, when I was going through my breakup and I found out I was cheated on, my identity was shattered, my self-esteem was in the toilet. The one thing that I knew was that I valued kindness, and I didn't know what else to do with my life, but I knew that I would feel good if I did that. And what happened from this was because I valued it, when I acted in alignment with it, I felt really good about myself. And it stopped mattering what anybody else thought about me because I was playing the game on my rules, not on theirs. And you'll notice I've made hundreds of videos on Instagram, which is a very challenging thing to do because we often are concerned about what other people think about us. I wear a silly mustache every day. And you know what? I don't give a shit. I don't care what people think because I play the game of good enough on my rules, not on other people's. And so this is the key to this step. It's alignment and action. You don't just sit there thinking about it. You have to take action in alignment with your values. And when you do, you get confidence. And so to give you another example from this example comes from about 2 years ago. I worked with this guy and he was depressed for the last 10 years. That's what he had told me when he came in. And he was struggling with anxiety and had been on meds and was seeing therapists and nothing was working for him. And he was in pretty rough mental shape when he came to me. But we decided we were going to work together for just 6 sessions. And he got really fantastic results because he took action. Now, I like to check in on people, the people that I work with down the line. I just want to see how they're doing. And just a couple of days ago, actually, I texted this guy and I wanted to see, it's been 2 years. How has your time been? How has emotion hacking been working for you? And he said to me, and I quote, "I'm doing absolutely amazing. Life is so happy and I'm really grateful." This is the person who tried everything, was depressed and anxious for 10 years on medication, nothing worked. And here they are saying 2 years after just learning the system and developing the skill that they are still genuinely happy, just vibing on life. It's because when you become the person who has the character traits that you value, your confidence and happiness comes from within, not from without. And so I could tell you stories for days, right? This video is already longer than I intended it to be, so I'm going to save you from that. But what I want to do next is just give you a quick recap because this is up next is really the secret sauce of emotion hacking. It's not just a linear system. It's not just A to B. It's actually a cyclical system. And I have spent now thousands and thousands of hours just reflecting on this, refining this, testing it with people, testing it in my own life to bring you this simple system so that you can actually apply this. Okay. So here's how this works. We start with non-judgmental awareness. This is always step number 1. If you are not aware of a problem, you cannot solve it. From here, we move into non-resistance because if we resist what we are feeling, if we resist the anger, the frustration, the doubt, the insecurity, the sadness, etc., it gets worse. So we non-resist. Then we start to investigate and we say, where is this coming from? Remember, I encourage you, and don't believe me, see for yourself, that your suffering comes from a place of desire, from wanting, or the inverse of desire, not wanting. From this place, these 3 steps, you will dissolve your negative emotions and you will be left in a neutral state. Now, from this neutral state, if you're not careful, you'll slide back down. So what we need to do is start to create positive emotions. We do this with our imagination using the ingredients of truth, faith, and gratitude. And you will start to create positive emotions. You will start to feel a lot better. We'll just call this positive. Now, from here, once you are creating positive feelings, the next thing you need to do is to start to align yourself with your values, things that you value. It's not what does Jordan value. It's not what does your mom value, or your dad value, or society value, or anything. What do you value? And if you don't know, I encourage you, take some time and really think about it. For me, the things that I have found work really well for me and my clients: kindness, compassion, and non-judgmentalness. If you don't know where to start, I encourage you to take a look at those ones. They work pretty well. You align yourself with these things. And then from here, we have to take action. Now, specifically, just to give you guys a little bonus tip, we specifically want to take unattached action. The reason is that you'll notice when you go about life and you start trying to control everything, you want things to go a particular way, you cause yourself suffering and they don't go your way. And so instead, be unattached, let go of the outcome, and just flow through the moment. Just simply show up with the pure intention to embody the thing that you're aligning yourself with, and be unattached to how it actually goes. The beautiful thing is that this will always take you back to non-judgmental awareness. And so if you are ever in emotional pain, emotional turmoil, you don't know what to do, you start with non-judgmental awareness. And you work your way through the cycle. And when you get to the end of the cycle, you start back at the beginning. You can do this anywhere, anytime. And it is a skill. Okay? This system will allow you to take negative things. Again, let's say you're struggling with anger or hurt or sadness or betrayal or guilt or shame or any of those things. You can take it and you can go through the system, transmute it into something positive, and become somebody that you genuinely like on the other side of that. Now, I have shown this to a lot of people, and a lot of people will take this, they'll say, yeah, that's cool, and then they will never apply it. They will not take any action. And therefore, you will not get results, right? Just thinking about it isn't going to do things. You actually have to apply it. The thing is that it's fairly simple, but it's actually quite challenging, especially in the face of life being quite chaotic and we get caught in our own minds. And it can be really hard to stay motivated and to stay consistent. And so anybody can succeed with this on their own, but most people won't. Okay. The other thing is that the mental landscape is it's a tricky place. It's easy to get lost. And I also did not get here on my own. I had lots of mentors. I had lots of training. It took me years and it was painful as hell for me to do it. What I do for people is I'm like the Sherpa. I'm like the guy, that little guy carries your packs, walks up the mountain with you and guarantees that you get to this top. And as you're going up, he says, hey, watch for a slippery slope over there. Hey, that pit has snakes in it. Don't go down there. Hey, you can expect this up around this turn, and help you when you slip, when you fall, to get back up and continue on the track. I guarantee that my students reach the top or your money back. And I typically can do this in 8 to 12 weeks. Generally speaking, it takes 10. And the alternative is that it's very painful, very expensive. You might never make it and takes years to do. So for most people watching this, a lot of people will just throw this away. And you know what? That's totally fine. I am unattached to the outcome of what comes from this. Some people just are not ready. But I know that there are a select few of you who are watching this right now. You've made it all the way through. You are ready. You are willing to be courageous, to escape your comfort zone and to really transform your life. And yeah, you probably feel a little bit of apprehension, but you are willing to be brave in the face of it because you are the type of person who takes action to create results. And if you're fed up with the way that you've been living and you are ready to make a change, then for you, I want you to click the link below and book a time to chat with me. We'll chat about what's been going on, where you want to go, and if we both feel it's a good fit for us to get you there. And trust me, this isn't some slimy sales call where I pitch you services, because when I guarantee that I get clients results, I'm only going to offer that to people that I know that I can get results for. Okay. So if you decide to book the call with me, just know you're either going to get exactly what you're looking for with a guarantee that you're going to get the results and you can change your life, or you get your money back. Or if you hop on the call and it's not a good fit for you or for me, for either of us, then no harm, no foul. I'll give you some resources, help you out, send you on your way. But if it is a good fit, you literally have nothing to lose. Okay? And because of the one-on-one nature of the work that I do, I only have a few spots left. If this page is up, it goes up and down. So if it's up, you're watching this right now, it means I have some spots. But truthfully, they fill up really quick. So click the link below. Book your call with me while the spots are still open. I hope this has been helpful for you. I look forward to chatting with you, and I hope you have a blessed day.